So let's take a look at something I have been working on really for no other reason than it's an interesting way to maybe interact with SQL, MySQL. So we have a cmangos private server here. It took me about 5 days to compile the binaries. That would be these two files in particular. Obtain all the SQL scripts necessary to build the databases, build the binaries to extract maps from the official game client, which would be these, so maps, mmaps, vmaps. If you take a look at these contain quite a large number of files at 10,000. That's used for like bot routing information and other vector info. So this is some of the source code, so I don't need that. It's a batch file that I created, very simple, just boots the game, or the server rather. And so here's a demonstration of how one would manually start this server. At this point, this is ready for shipping. You could say I pull this off a server archive I have that I have mapped to my P drive. So first thing we are going to start is the SQL server itself. So this is going to be the first step of getting your WoW private server to run, is getting a MySQL server to run and being able to connect to that, whether that be locally or within your internal network. And in my case, I want this to be usable within my internal network. So that is multiple computers that are on my Wi-Fi or Ethernet, whatever. So you can see here it does register that we are open on port 3306, or operating, not necessarily open. Now if we go to the actual MySQL instance, let's use MariaDB just to demonstrate that even a modern MySQL client can connect. Let me just lower my music here for a second. Okay. So we will mysql.exe, and then we'll host my loopback address, the user root, and then password is something I've already created. You can see we're actually right in to the server, so we can see that I have built the server already, or I built parts of it, its base. We could connect through a GUI client. We're using dbeater here. We're going to connect, and we can actually look at the contents of the SQL server. We can run queries. You can show here that I am logged in as root and localhost, but we have other users built. So I have sub for subject and have a localhost version of sub. This person is a wildcard. That means I can connect from anywhere. So if I'm not connecting from localhost, that is, I've hopped on another computer, say my laptop, I can still log into my SQL database and do administrative tasks. But we could go in here, for example, this is a 351 megabyte, megabyte or megabit possibly, database. You can see a lot of info in here. We could query stuff if we wanted to, but we're not going to get into that because we don't need too much SQL administration just to get started with a server. So the client we can exit. We need to keep the server running. We're going to open another tab, hop back into the core directory where I have my binaries compiled. And again, I have added quite a bit to this base installation. We are going to pop up the realm list. Perfect. So you see here I already actually created a second realm called Farstriders, and we can take a look at that here in the database, even though I told you we weren't really going to look at much. We want to go under the realmd database, we can realm list, and we can actually see somewhere in here, we run a query. We could do, I believe it is realm ID. It's name, yeah, ID, name, and address. We'll do name, ID, address from realm list. Run this. We could see the two realms that I have. So one is intended to be connected to only on the localhost loopback interface, which is 127.0.0.1. And then I have one for Farstriders that you can connect to my local machine if you're on my internal network, and you can reach 10.0.0.209, which is the IP of my current client. Don't want to close that, of course. So now, one last time, we are going to boot the actual server itself. So I'll show you what it looks like before we build the server. So to recap, we have a SQL server running. So this is hosting the actual database, the actual information, the crystallized information that is loaded once the World of Warcraft server itself is booted. So to give you some perspective, the SQL server runs on port 3306, which is just kind of the standard for MySQL. You can change it if you want. Realm port is different. So once again, this is a second socket that you're connecting through. I don't know if socket is the correct term, but this runs on 3724, and then we're going to find that the server itself runs on yet another IP, which is going to be 8085, which is the standard for World of Warcraft. So before we run that, let's try to boot WoW and see what actually occurs when we try to sign in here. I'm going to have to look at my footage just to make sure that this runs in full screen. Okay, so I have fixed the resolution so that it is not unbearable. I'm going to fix the volume a little bit there because that was pretty bad. And we're going to hop in. And so once again, I had not booted the actual World of Warcraft server yet. The only thing running is the SQL server in the realm list. So that's ports 3306 and 37 whatever. Okay, so you'll see it does actually authenticate me. That would not happen if I did not have the realm list up. Let's see, we have two realm lists here. This is the default Mango server, and then Farstriders, which actually reads as having high population despite the fact that no one is in there. And we get the infamous logging into game server loop. This is a sign that if you are trying to run a WoW server and clients are experiencing this loop, some people may think that the server itself is up because clients can sign in, and that's not true. If I close fully out here, you'll see that nothing is going on in the SQL database, really, when I sign in using the realm list, and the realm list doesn't really give me any feedback, and clearly nothing can be going on with the actual WoW server, which runs from this binary when you load it, because it's not even up yet. So before we run this, just going to show you quick funny thing about the population. If we add population as one of the items that we want to grab, you see that Farstrider is actually listed as having a population. That's because I hard inserted this value so that it would not be grayed out. Otherwise it might read as offline if population is set to 0. Okay, so let's boot the actual mangosd server. Let's make sure that we have settings enabled. So right now we have bots off. Implementing that is a little bit more work. We have config files for our realms list and mangosd. Okay. So you'll see here it boots. we're going to see this start to populate in the task manager. That hang there could have been it booting, or Defender may have been auditing its actions before it booted, because this is the first time it's run since I restarted the computer. Okay, so it loaded in 15 seconds, which is pretty quick. My computer is all right. It's not the greatest or most up-to-date machine. It's actually very old, but the components at the time were pretty new. So it recognizes node is online, max difference, blah blah blah. This is kind of just the white noise logging at a log level 1 or 0. So let's open our game client back up. And now we're on localhost because I'm serving World of Warcraft from the same machine that I'm trying to connect to, right, or connect from using a client. So you see there, actually, I got a little message that said authentication successful. That means that it already successfully threw me into a realm. So we're past the hurdle. Now I can choose either Mangos or Forest Riders. If I were off of this client, Mangos would not work because this is set to only be connectable over the loopback interface. But that's viable because, once again, I'm serving World of Warcraft from the same machine that I'm using to connect to it. But I can hop on different machines on my network and connect, right? It'll still work. So actually this client has some add-ons already, so we can hop straight in. Once we get in here, I will show you what's going on in the server terminals to see what kind of logging info we get. And right now I believe we're at the lowest logging level, which is the default one, so we'll probably audit more actions. In reality, every action gets audited by the server or the SQL server. Okay, I actually don't have any add-ons merged into this. I do on my laptop, but there we go. Game boots that has the true version 1.12 settings, such as needing to go into interface and disabling the slow scrolling dialogue, wherever that even is. So pretty interesting that this project, really the Mangos project, has been around since before the 2010s, and people have been continuing to make changes to it in a project called Continued Mangos. I had a slight recording error that occurred during this section of filming, so I've come back on here as I don't want to edit out all that duration. And I recorded a little sound to put over it so that I don't have to highlight a bunch of clips and drag and drop them. I could just drop this where the dead space is. Okay. So we killed something, let's log out and see what kind of information is coming through. Okay, so this is the server itself. These are just auto events that are going off. These are events about me. Interesting. Like I said, you'd have to go into the SQL database to really see what's going on here. These are queries that are being run. Here's an error. This one is related to AI player bots. This is a table that, actually I recognize this table and I know how to solve this error. If we head into our SQL scripts, we go into single player scripts, player bot. I believe it is one of these. Yep, exactly. So right here, I'll create table AI player random bots. Player bot random bots, rather. Okay, so let's shut this down. So WoW server off. realm list off. Once again, we will hop into our client just to show that now we'll get no connection at all. And just like that, we get a hang, right? Just like if we had no internet at all. There's no communication whatsoever going on, not with the realm list, not with the actual WoW server, and not with the SQL server, because this is really just for back-end management, the game world, its variables, its players, it's the database engine, right? But then we can actually shut that down as well. And this is a pretty old engine. This is SQL like 5. This is 5.7, which still gets used, and it's like, I believe it has some sort of legacy support, but really, to run a safe engine, you would be running like a, if you're going to be using MySQL, use MySQL 8 and use modern TLS encryption methods. Like you'll see we're using version 1, version 1.1. Not good enough. We need TLS 2. I'm pretty sure TLS 3 is in development, but okay, so let's try installing some of the player box. Let's see if we can get that to work. Here's a good one here too, a MySQL name password, how to get plugin, not something you should be using. But this is only open to our internal network connections, which no one should be on, so it shouldn't be an issue. But here we go, we want to run, say, all these SQL scripts in order. Give me 1 second. So, you know, what we could do is write a batch job to do this, but I don't really, I don't know, doesn't really sound fun. So let's write something in PowerShell instead. So first thing, we're gonna write something that gets the full file name. So that includes the full path of these, so we can do that with, let's call this SQL scripts. Let's say get child item path, then what we have here. Really, we could take this a step further in terms of automation and start this off. So let's say script path, and then this is something that we can configure later. Please don't judge me for writing my PowerShell scripts inside the ISE. Yeah, it happens. Some people do, some people don't. Let's just call this install scripts for now. We could kind of write this to be portable, which is what we're going to do. So, get child item on the script path. Let's write this to see what this actually does. So, let's run both these lines here. No errors, so that's good. Okay, and you'll see that when we run that in the console here, we actually get our corresponding files. So here's an interesting thing that we can do with those. I'm not sure if this is necessary, but we can, maybe we cannot get the path. Here, so let's actually get member to see what we can get. Okay, full name isn't here, so I was mixing that up with full path. So we'll full path, or full name rather. Okay, and there we go. This is a, see here in 2 lines we did what? Let's, we'll just call this files for now. Or file names, no, here. Full names. Full file names. So once again, run all this. Not the best, but say I don't open this for a while, I need to look back and see what the scripts do. This is very obvious. This is transparent writing here. So what can we do with this now? We can, well, first of all, what is this object? This is going to be an array of some sort. If we get so it comes out as a string, but it's that each of them are strings. So we get type, we see that it is an array. So really it's an array of strings. Now how are we going to use this? Now we can we'll just say initialize script. Exactly use this, we can say now that we have the full file names, we can easily automate running them all at once. So let's use my MariaDB bin, and we actually have MySQL.exe. I believe this is exactly correct. So let's just test this out. Oh, clearly I had some sort of error. Either that or Finder is broken, which has been bugging me. Finder is broken. Okay, not Finder, File Explorer. Please, Microsoft, fix File Explorer. I don't know why it is still having problems for Windows 11. I mean, if we're going to rewrite it, let's do so correctly. So now we can use this. We are going to write a for loop, which in PowerShell is made easy with a for each loop. So we can say for each file in full file names. So this is for every single entry in this array. We're going to do something specifically. We are going to start process. Let's rename this to MySQL bin path, since this really is the MySQL client that we're using. And we have an argument list. So what I usually do here is write install arguments and then turn this into an array. That way we can more clearly see what's going on. So what are the first things we need in this install argument? We need a host to connect to, which if we're running this locally, which we should be, it's going to be the loopback, or in reality, actually, we don't need to write a host at all. Let's keep it though, just to keep things explicit. Let's connect over sub. In reality, we could connect over root, so maybe we'll do that for now. No, let's be nice and keep permissions limited when we're writing scripts and tools that automate things. Then we want to enter a password, but we don't actually want to type what it is. Then we have to use the script itself. Actually, we need a database, so let's connect to, let's actually add this as another configuration. So in this case, this would be classic characters. Type something there. Okay. And now I actually run the script. So this is done using a pointer, a greater than sign, and file. Because we are pulling each of these is one file in the full file names array. And that's it. Now is this going to work? No clue. But let's start testing things individually. So first let's run these first 5 lines just to see that none of these variables throw any errors. We already know that they don't because we tested them. Okay, so I could not So I've been working on this for like 40 minutes, maybe 30, and I cannot get this to do what I want by launching the MySQL client directly. Let's just rename this because I think this is a slightly better variable name. So when in doubt, when you really need to use the batch commands, or the DOS commands rather, that's okay. You don't need to scrap your PowerShell script because once again, PowerShell is really where it's at in terms of its versatility. So let's do this. Let's launch a command prompt and run the DOS commands ourselves. So the meat is, instead of being in the actual install line of code, it's going to be here in the install arguments. So we're going to run a cmd.exe/c. And let's do in double quotes so that this is all just one big string. And we have to run MySQL. So MySQL client. This is sufficient. See if we make this slightly bigger here. Yep. And now this should do what we want to, if I'm not mistaken. So really, this reads as. Okay, that's fine. I think we're in command prompt here. Yeah. So really, this reads as. This line of code. Okay. So we're going to run that however many times there are files in here. So let's do this. Okay, so we forgot to actually include the arguments. So you have to do that first. Because we chopped off this line, totally forgot here. So argument list is just going to be this one big string. Rather than separating these with commas and turning it into an array, we're just going to do it kind of quick and dirty like that. Then we'll add the wait flag. No, because we're not going to kill these processes. We don't need them to wait. It'll go quicker actually if we don't wait. But we will do a pass through. We don't want to do window style hidden because we want to see any errors if they do pop up. Okay, so let's check that out now. We opened up our database here, so I already did this and checked earlier when I got this to run successfully, but refreshing, we see that we have a bunch of new tables here now. So let's do this for another directory and see if we can continue adding on to the server and its functions, right? It's the different components we can add, because right now it's very basic, but we just added part of the AI modules. So let's see. We ran this out of the player mod. So let's copy this. Let's go to characters, which this kind of just looks like more AI player mod information. I'm assuming this comes first because this is looks like one of the most base components. Not totally sure. Let's open this version, close out the old one. Now we shouldn't need to change anything about the script, which again is the nice part. This isn't going to require any configuration. However, it might, let's, for the heck of it, let's go to what we were using before and just use the 5.7 client as well. There's no point in pointing to the most recent MariaDB distribution. Let's keep things portable, right? Okay, so let's run this now, and if this is successful, we're going to add this list of scripts, and we can verify by opening one of these and checking what kind of tables it's supposed to add. So let's look at dualspec.sql. Okay, dualspec will clean and replace a table called custom dualspec talent. Now, where exactly is custom dualspec talent? Pretty sure it's under characters because that's how the original project manager filed them. So let's go under the characters, classic characters. you'll see there the database did get bigger because I refreshed it since running some of these successful SQL scripts. Where did I open that? Here, yeah, dual spec. Okay, custom dual spec. There is no custom dual spec talent, so this should show up right around here if this script executes successfully. So let's do it. So let's change this. Really, we can change the script path to PS script path. This is automatically going to read where we're at. And actually, this is not going to get read properly in the ISC. So let's run this from an actual terminal. Okay, execution policy bypass file. Let's install scripts and let's see what happens. Okay. Clearly we are not an administrator because that's what we need to run execution policy bypass. Okay, and they actually did work because it acknowledges that I was using an insecure password method through the command line, which is insecure. Don't do that. I'm doing that for ease here so that I don't have to type and copy paste it. This is not an actual password that I use for things, and this is not a public server for people. So let's refresh and see that custom character dual spec should show up, and you see there we did get a bunch of new tables. A bunch of them are custom dual spec related tables. So my PowerShell script is working, and this is a really easy way to automate this installation, and I'm pretty glad that I did this. So let's see if there's anything else we want. What kind of updates exist in here? I have no idea, right? I don't know if these are old, if these are new. I think these are old, so these are kind of like archives. Let's go out of the single player scripts and just in general see what we have. I think this will kind of clean certain things up. And this tells you which database things are going in, so actually I could write into the PowerShell script lines to identify which database we're going to use, so I could turn this into some sort of smart variable that changes with file name or directory name. Cmangos fixes, again, is this something that exists automatically? No clue. Maybe let's take a look at this. Okay, why don't we run this anyways to see what happens. So, once again, no idea what table, or rather database, this is supposed to be inserted into. I'm assuming it's the cmangos table. Let's actually see if there are any tables that we recognize. So spell template should be one of them. Let's see if there is a spell template. There definitely is. So here, let's run this with the PowerShell script anyways, right? So open this back up, close the old one. Now this script path is the same database that we have to change. So let's actually, we did write this in and didn't include it, but now let's include this. So now it's classic mangosd believe, or just classic mangos. Classic mangos. Okay, now let's run this script and it'll fix whatever's wrong with this spell. Got it. Change directories, of course. Okay, and it worked. Seemed to have run two things though, which is interesting because it ran out of this path. Yeah, curious, but here, let's go back into dbeaver. Let's refresh and see if you can see a difference within the 17 megabytes that were there. No, it does not. Or you cannot, rather. Okay, so what have we done? Let's recap. We added every player bot script. We installed every character script. Then within full, did we really do anything in here? I guess not. These world updates are these things that already exist in the base version of Mangos that I built. I'm not sure. Maybe we'd have to check, although I will say the author is pretty nice. A lot of these will remove tables if they do already exist to avoid conflicts and to allow for like cleaning, I guess you could say, like repairs or replacements. Okay, so that's enough about the SQL for now. Let's actually configure the server to run with the AI player bot module and the auction house player bot module. And we can take a look in these notepad files to see what they actually do. So it is enabled, auto login enabled, blah blah blah. Let's change the number of bots that can be active. I don't know if this is, I'm assuming this is the amount of bots that can be created and inserted into the database before they start getting deleted. I don't think these are the amount of bots that can sign in. I think there's a different setting for that. It's obviously 1,000 bots. I don't think the server could handle that, and that definitely would not be a default setting. So let's turn this off, for example, just to see that everything settings does work. Okay. HBot stuff in here. Nothing I'm gonna mess with right now. Okay. So let's boot this server manually. Let's close out the administrative prompt. Okay, so it's possible that these are from my attempts earlier at doing stuff. Let's see the time. 24. Yeah, okay, so these are from when I was troubleshooting stuff. These are not errors in the SQL database of me inserting any of those tables or running any of the scripts, so that's a shame. But let's shut down the database just to keep things neat. We can also sort our TCP traffic to show multiple entries of the SQL database, connections that it's established with the clients I have connected to it. And these will go away here. I guess they wait first and then they terminate. Okay, so let's open this back up. It's good sign that we didn't royally destroy anything. Realm list runs fine, instantly boots. Once again, we'll see realmd pop up, and again, only localhost connections established. If I hop on a laptop and connected, we would see another entry for a different local IP, like a 10.0 point whatever, because that's how my subnet is set up. And then the final one, let's see if this really works, or if this throws a ton of errors. You could see once I launched that, though, that a bunch of new SQLD instances popped up. That is probably this process, which is the WoW server communicating with SQLD, which SQLD is the server itself, the binary that hosts it. And so that is mangosd, the server, querying our SQL database to get info, to load info, to change things. Part of the database is long-term storage, like character data, XP, mob health, but a lot of it is also temporary cached or dynamic data because the game is totally running off of that database. But this is a good sign so far. We have things loading, we have no errors, which, okay, so here's one error at least. It is because of the single player project, so this actually looks like a crash. Let's look into this. So this table doesn't exist. Let's see if we can find a module that directly corresponds with this table. Yeah, this is definitely a crash here, so let's cut the server off. You see here we just lost a bunch of instances, but they were all internal, so it's my computer talking to itself. Okay, base, nothing in there. Nothing in create. Tools, nope. Oh, this was in Boybot? No. No, I mean, if they were, I would have them, so let's... Okay, here it is. Vanilla world. Interesting. So let's just run everything in here. So how do we know which database this stuff is going to get inserted? Is it going to be all the same? Let's maybe click through them and make sure we know what we're doing. So these tables, it's not clear actually. I would have to look up the achievement table. Probably the mangosd database though. Most of this is probably the mangosd database. Let's see about a dual spec. Okay, creature template. Let's look that up. Creature template is probably in here. Okay, so that's a good sign that it is the mangosd database. And let's do world, because this... Right, these are also some bigger scripts. Gossip menu option. Let's look at this. Yep, there. And last one, let's look up travel zone, since this is quite a big file. And we can get out of all of these. Get back into localhost. Get classic characters up, and let's do our first one, which is going to be RPG races. Actually, let's make this easy. So all AI player bot. Let's make this is just a trash folder. Okay. Then let's save a copy here. Perfect. And where do we want this to go? We don't want this to go to classic mangos. We want this to go to classic characters, or at least I hope we do. Then let's run this. This will... Well, you know, our error also would have given us where it's supposed to exist. It is supposed to be classic mangos. That's bad. We definitely could have written errors into this. Although I feel like we didn't. Why don't we hop back at classic mangos, do that again. Let's run this again. Let's see what we can do here. Hop into classic mangos. Okay. Again, one window lasting longer than the others makes sense because one of the files is substantially larger. And there we go. We have our tables. Now what's so interesting though is that we fired these off in the wrong directory, and I don't think we did anything oh, well, maybe we did actually, because there I do see some zone level and files that are related. Maybe they'll come out to be benign. This is the reason though why we take good backups of stuff during learning experiences, because we just wrote this script. Still getting used to this, but whatever. Once again, let's try to boot this server up. Okay, Realm started fine. Let's start mangosd. Let's see how far we get. So now I think we are on to something. The RPG teleport cache, any of the caches take a long time. This is a common one. Okay, still going. Let's in the meantime. Okay, sorry, I did miss it finishing, but as you can see, after a pretty long period of building that cache, right, so here we go, here was the very long step right here. AI bots initialized, and we are all good. Yeah, equipment cache is what took so long. It registered something like 246,000 total items. I don't know if that's combinations or what. But okay, you can see here people are getting sent to grind spots, registers that they exist, and it's not throwing a ton of errors. So let's, once again, boot up the client, see if it... Okay, so I am right in. Let's get my volume lowered here. Okay, alright. Okay, and I do see someone standing there. Could be that they're broken, it could be part of the design. I do mostly see people standing here though, so it does not look like they're functional yet. Okay, so there is some sort of coding in their dialogue, but they will invite or accept invites. Oh, and they follow. Okay, interesting. So it doesn't yet look like they do their own thing. So that would possibly be other modules that I need to add. But yeah, so